Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Missy.
I am anthropomorphic Anthony.
And we are here to talk about Nick Cassavetes' The Notebook. I don't know of a movie that's more horrifying. Honestly, I've never seen it. I love Ryan Gosling. I'm never going to see it. I'm terrified, but I understand that you guys just got done. You synchronized your watches and watched The Notebook for 24 hours straight. And Anthony, I noticed, are those thumbtacks that are in your eyes?
They're actually keeping my eyelids open up.
Oh, you pulled a total Alex. Okay.
Yes.
No, I kid. We're here to talk about a Nick Cassavetes movie, though, and it is not The Notebook. It is The Devil's Notebook, also known as I Have Tattoos on My Face, Fear Me, also known as God is a Bullet. This,
AKA when Hot Topic shopping goes wrong.
This has a very limited release. So I am in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I saw it last night. Here at the Regal, we only have 9:35 p.m. showings, which was no small feat for me. But it's still playing. It's playing tonight. Missy, you're in Chicago. Anthony, you're in LA. Is it still playing by you guys?
It is not still playing by me. That's why I said I had to go Sunday.
That's right. Anthony, what about you? Is it still going, or was it just the weekend?
I think it's playing out through Friday and then it's done.
Okay. I can't believe Clarksville has it during the week.
Right.
It's so random.
We had it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 9 p.m. only.
Yeah, just 9:35 here. I know, Anthony, you lucked out with like an early show time.
Yeah, I was able to get in there at 10 a.m. And there was actually when I got my ticket online, there wasn't anybody. Actually, that ticket back, there was one person that had already had a reserved ticket. But by the time I got there was at least 20 people in the theater.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, okay, there's actually a crowd at 10 a.m. no less. And I was like, on a Sunday morning, we should have been in church, but this is what we did. And but no, I was surprised to see there was a crowd there to actually watch the film. So that was pretty cool. At 10 a.m. no less, like I said, on a Sunday morning. So it was pretty cool.
That's interesting. Well, regardless of anything else, I'm glad then it seems like it maybe is doing okay, although I guess it's got a 29 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Bad reviews.
I know, just scrolling through Letterboxd, nobody I know or follow except one guy, I think he gave it 3 stars maybe. I did end up giving it 3 stars and a heart today. Last night I would not have given it that. I needed to kind of let it roll around. We're going to get into that. So for the listeners, we're going to avoid spoilers, and then we're going to talk spoilers. So I will give clear delineation when, if you haven't seen the movie, shut us down. I don't know that you can spoil this movie, but just to be safe. So man, I don't know, guys. Let's talk about this. Anthony, give me a knee-jerk reaction to this movie.
Just that it was too long.
Well, yeah, 2.5 hours, especially when you got a late show. It although I will say, I did not feel like it was dragging until the last 15 minutes. I was kind of like, this is another movie that doesn't know when to shut the fuck up.
I feel like the gal, and her name escapes me right now. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I believe it's Micah Monroe. I could be
Micah
wrong.
Monroe
From It Follows,
so
and
she's a solid
Watcher.
actress.
She's great.
I think she's just continually cast in films that aren't that great. I do love her in The Stranger. Is it The Stranger? Is that what that one's called?
No, Watcher. Yeah, she's great in Watcher.
I think it's is it House Guest? House Guest. No, The Guest. The Guest. That's what I'm thinking of.
I forgot she's in that. Yeah, the Adam Wingard movie.
The Guest.
Yeah,
she's fantastic. She's fantastic in The Guest. But
yeah,
it follows. I've said it before. It's not one of my favorite films, and I know a lot of people hold it in really high regard these days, and will fill my casket with shit and bury me 20 feet deep because I don't like it. But I think she's a solid actress, and I think that she's able to, I think her performance came off very strong in this film. I don't think it was overacted. I think it was just enough, and I think she was that great constant reminder to our protagonist that like whatever you think you're up against, you're not. And whatever you think you've got the guts to go against because you're not afraid, you better get some fear in you because shit's about to go down. You're going to see some stuff you've never seen before. You're going to be exposed to a world you've never seen before, kind of like Blade, you know. And you're going to see things, beatings. I love Blade too. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I'll fight you. But no, it's. I went back and forth with it, and by the end of it, I did feel as though this is going to be one of these movies that haunts me for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And as I was telling you earlier, I was in the shower this morning. I was like, I got to buy the book. I got to find a way to get this book. I have to buy it. And, like it did stay on my mind, and there's enough in it that's going to keep you on edge. There's a fair amount of suspense, and there's plenty of ultra violence in it, which I'm a fan of. And these are the things that, draw me towards a film like this. And of course, the trailers cut pretty splendidly and it's snazzy, and that's what brought me to it in the first place. I know nothing about the novel or fuck, I didn't even know it was a Cassavetes film. And I was like, wait a minute, dear God, am I about to be notebooked again? But ultimate knee jerk was that I did enjoy it. So, I mean, as far as like a hot take, I do think that it was a good movie. In no way, I'm not going to say it was a fantastic movie over the top. I think this is going to be one of those ones that may be overlooked. I think this is Cassavetes' attempt at trying to gain some cult cred, no pun intended. Mm-hmm. And I don't know necessarily what his true intentions were behind making this film, as far as like maybe it's reinvention or who knows. Not a bad film, not a poorly acted film. Cinematography is pretty decent. It does get a little floppy from time to time, but ultimately the takeaway was that I did make it through the 2.5 hour film and didn't hate it by the end of it. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Let's pass it along.
Missy.
All right. I guess I was the only one that, like, when I walked out of the theater, I knew I liked the movie. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to like sit with it, and it grabbed me right away. I tend to latch onto a character and kind of ride the movie, mm-hmm. and it told a compelling story that I had no problem taking that ride. It was not a movie where I was sitting there. I didn't feel the 2.5 hours, but I'm also somebody who gets into something and can watch, an entire season of television in one day, on a day off. So, I mean, unless I'm bored and it's not holding my attention, I usually don't pay too much attention to runtime. But I thought it was like, it sets mood incredibly well. When you like, it definitely builds the tension, and like, it made me feel a little bit anxious, not in a bad way. Like, if a movie actually can make me feel that, I'm usually pretty impressed. Mm-hmm. But I thought the performances were great, and like, I enjoyed it. I am seeing all these terrible reviews, and I have a couple minor complaints, but overall I thought it was a good film.
I've noticed a lot of the terrible reviews I've seen, and this is just Letterboxd, so I don't know about anything, like film critic reviews or whatever. usually it seems like the lead complaint is another movie where it's just violence against women, which, I at the risk of being, I feel like I'm not a misogynist and I'm pro female, like more so than male. Fuck me. But it's like I remember seeing somebody I know react about Mandy, where they were like, "Oh yeah, another movie where the girl gets raped and murdered, and then the boy has to come and give revenge." Well, the thing with Mandy was she wasn't raped. That was the whole reason why they killed her, because he couldn't get up. But that's what a revenge film is. So somebody has to be killed, or or beat up, or whatever. And so this movie,
and this movie, they're violent. Like, they're violent against everybody.
They're violent against everybody, but also, like, there is definitely. So let's give the basic synopsis before we continue. So you get Micah Monroe is the survivor of a quote unquote satanic cult. She left at great harm to herself, but she did leave. And so we begin the film. She's kind of like exorcising these demons. It's kind of like that Marcy Mary. I'll never remember the name of that movie, even though I love it. But where it's like you see
Marcy Mary Martha Marcy May Marlene.
Yes. So you see, thank you. You see the whole deprogramming process. They don't really elaborate, but I know that that's what it is just from seeing other things or reading things about it. And there is a police officer who, it's important to note now because we'll come back to it, is a desk cop who's estranged from his wife, or probably divorced, and so his teenage daughter and ex-wife live with somebody in a fucking mansion, and the ex-wife and her new husband are brutally murdered, and the teenage girl's taken by the same cult. And so then Micah Monroe kind of finds him and says, "I can help you," and so then they become a team and kind of go in to, like, not infiltrate is the wrong word because it sounds too like methodical, but so that's what you're dealing with, right? So there is a lot of violence towards women because the main person in the cult is a man who is a piece of garbage and treats everybody terribly, most especially women and children. And I just kind of feel like that's the point of the fucking movie. So anybody leading with their, another movie filled with violence against women, well, I don't know. Maybe you probably shouldn't watch movies about cults, because I feel like that's going to be a thing, right? More and more, I wish I could just show up at a theater exactly when the movie starts, because I'll tell you, one of the things that led into my having a very rocky entry into this is part of the pre-show entertainment, Maria Menounos.
You take that back, you motherfucker.
part of it was, hey, I subbed to her Heel Squad podcast. So no, I didn't at all. One of the things was a brief trailer ad for, I don't even know what it was. It was a show or movie, whatever. But the way that it starts, it's like a voiceover talking about how child trafficking is now like surpassing drugs and all these other crimes as being, and it's just such a gross, man, it, like, I don't want to go there in my entertainment, right? So I knew the setup was that this guy's daughter was taken by a cult, but I didn't realize, I guess, the age and the exact, parameters of that. So the movie starts with you don't know it when you're watching it, but the young Micah Monroe character, probably 11, 12, like her and her mom walk out of a grocery store. The mom realizes she forgot something, runs back in, and then you see these people from the cult, they take her, right? And I was like, oh God. Like I was like, oh man. And
brazenly also in broad daylight.
Yeah, and so that as my entry into this movie, and then very shortly thereafter, you're introduced to the characters, and then the cop's daughter is taken, and in a particularly just really, it's just rough, and these bad guys, quote unquote, to oversimplify it, these cult members are. It took me a while because we'll get into this as well, but Anthony pointed out, like, they look ridiculous, right? With their face tattoos of inverted crosses and just, but all of it at the beginning combined to make this really ugly experience at the entrance to the movie for me. So I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a fucking long, like, wow, this is just ugly. The subject matter's ugly. These are people that just clearly like, it's a subculture that's just, I don't give a fuck about anything. And it was rough. But then I started getting into this thing where I said to both of you earlier today, I ultimately, as of last night, had a Bob Saget vibe from this movie, where, like, Bob Saget was famously the father on Full House and hosted America's Funniest Home Videos, neither of which I've watched Full House when I was a kid, I guess, but so real family friendly. And his stand-up I had always heard, and then one day I actually had the unfortunate opportunity to see him live in I didn't go to see him, he was with a bunch of other comedians, and he is so over that, like, every joke is like, she sucks my cock, come on her face, like, it's just so ridiculous where you just want to be like, excuse me, sir, we get it, you're not that guy. Okay, so I kind of started to wonder, is this movie Nick Cassavetes just being like, fuck being the guy that did The Notebook, let's add more facial tattoos in the script, like inverted crosses on everybody all the time, and killing children, raping children, like, just trying to amp it up to just obliterate that. And it ultimately starts to become a little bit ridiculous. Anyone want to jump in? I'm just rambling.
And I started reading the book after seeing the movie. It was on sale. I downloaded it.
Who's the author? It's Boston.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. It's Boston Turan, and he also wrote this movie with Nick Cassavetes.
Right.
So the writer of the novel was involved with writing the film. And I mean, so far I'm not real far. I think I'm on like chapter 10 or something. Okay. But so far, like, it doesn't seem like he amped it up for the movie. The book is more violent, and they have these tattoos and everything all over them. So, I mean, it doesn't seem different from the book.
Okay.
In that way, I don't think the director just cranked it up to 11. The book is already cranked up to like 37.
Okay.
I mean, it actually is a little bit tamer in the movie because they're not showing you everything they're telling you in the book.
Okay.
As far as like what happens to the mom and the stepfather or boyfriend, whatever. Like, the book gets kind of graphic about it. So the movie actually tamed it down a little bit because I mean, it's not even getting a big release to begin with. You wouldn't want to crank, like, if they cranked the violence up more than it already is, it's already getting dismal reviews, and it's only being shown at like 9:00 for a weekend.
Anthony?
Yeah, I was telling Sean earlier today how these cult members seem like caricatures of people seen through the lens of like satanic panic, and
I can see that. I kind of thought that too.
And like, okay, well, I see where they're going with this, but it's to the point to where it's borderline cartoony. And I mean, you see, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of touring in life, and I've been able to see like hot topic kids all across the nation at some point. So like the overall like quote unquote vibe that I get from a lot of these kids are some of the ones that grew up and got into meth, basically. And so it's like, yeah, this is it's basically like I said, these like amped up cartoony versions of these like, you know, hot topic kids with Slipknot Slipknot shirts and big pants that have, you know, fallen by the wayside and, you know, have decided to just take it all the way. It's like, well, what's cool? Oh no, Satan. So, you know, and then, you know, obviously one of them crosses the line, and then before you know it, there's a whole thing, and there's child creepy stuff going on. But I mean, it's weird because in a sense it's like these are very real topics that like haunt American reality today.
Mm-hmm.
Child trafficking is a very real thing. I don't know if for any listeners out there that follow me on Instagram, there's a missing child's post that I put up pretty much daily. And the sad reality is this child he's either dead or he's been trafficked. Like that's a very scary thing that hits close to home for a lot of people these days. And it affects and touches the lives of people in a very serious manner, and as it should, because it's fucking disturbing and sick.
Yeah.
Now, much like any horror film where we go to see, you know, fictitious violence and you know, campy, gratuitous violence, we go there looking for fun fare from all that stuff. But when the film crosses over into a reality that is too icky to touch, but does exist, much like a Serbian film, where we go into avenues of very, you know, sinister parts of life where things become, you start dabbling taboo and things that are very hard hitting. When this film does that as well, it kind of takes you to a place that's, well, where you're unnerved. You're definitely unnerved by it. You end up in a place seeing some things that are very real, happen every day, and I think that's the one looming threat of the film that keeps the movie dangerous and moving and flowing. That works for it. But at the same time, I could see how this is going to be one of those movies that gets on your skin and is a little hard to wash off too. But how can I say it? I think the movie is just this dark portrayal of, again, like I said, an avenue of life that many don't want to go down or dare tread to. But then again, it also leads me back to that first question: why did Cassavetes make this movie? Like, what's your angle here? Are you? And I'm not saying he needs to have like he's using this as a public forum to kind of shed light on, you know, these topics or anything. I genuinely believe he's just trying to, you know, do an accurate portrayal of what was happening in the novel. And even that might have been, you know, here's the message that we're trying to push out there, that, you know, this stuff is going on, not necessarily with satanic cults or anything like that. Like I said, I think that's just the spin on it. That's the lens that it's shown through. But I do think that this movie has something dangerous in it. And for that, I will say that I admire that, because I do like something that touches me in a way that I don't like. Sorry, I don't mean to put it that way. I don't know.
Can you show us on the doll where the movie touched you?
I can show you on my body. But ultimately, I think that the movie was executed well, I will say. And I think over time, when I did give it, a day to really like fully digest and ruminate in me, I think I don't necessarily have to say that I did. I don't have to say that I hated the movie or disliked it in any way. I think that it is a not accurate, but is a good portrayal of what's actually happening in the world. And like just recently I took a trip through the deserts of Arizona and stuff like that. Like we went to the Grand Canyon and we were driving on these like little dark desert roads where you see these little houses in the middle of fucking nowhere. And now I'm thinking in my head, what's just beyond the fucking veneer of what's in front of me right now? What's like what's happening? Like it leads you to question that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a little bit as we get into like heavier spoiler territory. But anybody want to take the lead, please do.
Missy?
All right. The one thing that stood out for me, and I mean, everybody's focusing on all, and it's a very dark story, and everybody's focusing on the dark stuff. But I really like that. I thought it was a really good story of redemption because Case Harden, that's the Mike Monroe character, who escaped from this cult, and she seeks him out. She sees the article in the newspaper about his missing daughter, and she contacts this detective herself. And through the whole thing, she's putting herself in imminent danger, knowing that, going into this thinking she's probably going to die because she doesn't want this little girl to die or to have the same things happen.
Yeah, to her
that she experienced. I mean, and I feel like that is a really powerful vibe, and to me that was the focus of the story, which kind of lightened it up a little. Like,
I could see that.
I didn't walk away from it, and it seemed in the same dark headspaces that you guys did. Because I really like the redemption story, and we'll get into more later, but the bond that she forms with the detective as well.
Let's get into a little bit of the story. Are you guys ready to go full spoiler and get icky?
Yeah.
Let me just before we do that, let me just say that, so I left the theater yesterday. I text Missy pretty much right away, and I think I text the group. And I was like, 40% of me like 30% of this movie. And that was because that was the only way I could come up with to say, like, I definitely liked it in spite of the ickiness and in spite of certain things that felt like contrived and whatnot. But then I thought about it a lot, and I started writing a review of it. And then I went to bed, and I woke up, and I actually delineated the review to what I wrote last night and then what I wrote this morning. And just in a nutshell, the conclusion I came up with is, a lot of times I think I turn my nose up at stuff that actually bothers me or scares me. And the example I used in what I wrote was like, like just The Exorcist scares the fuck out of me. I'm not Catholic. I don't believe in the devil, except for 3 days after I watch The Exorcist. It just scares me. I don't know why. It just does. So I've noticed with all of the Exorcist-ish movies that have come out in the last 10 years, the two that I came up with today, Recently Pray for the Devil, I just was like, this looks fucking retarded, whatever. I don't want to see it. This looks fucking stupid. I don't want to see it. And then I started thinking, like, I've said that about some of the other movies that have come out that look like that. Maybe it's just because I actually am afraid of it, because it might get under my skin, because I know that for whatever reason that does. And so I think maybe I was poo-pooing this movie because, I mean, this shit, I don't have kids. I'm never going to have kids. But there's nothing that is more horrific to me than just the opening of the fucking movie, where a woman and her daughter leave a grocery store, and literally, like, broad daylight, right in front of the grocery store, she doubles back in to get something she forgot, and somebody takes her kid. And I mean, and so I know both of you had said, like, you wish you wanted more stuff with the cult, and I know what you mean, because I was there for the satanic cult, because that was the thing. I don't know if I watched the trailer or not. I know I posted on my blog when I first heard about it a month or two ago. I don't remember the trailer if I watched it. I have a feeling I probably didn't, because I'm moving away from watching trailers because they tend to ruin movies. But just the byline, the tagline, like, cop's daughter, satanic cult, boom. But I don't know that I wanted more of this cult, because it seems that there was no actual, like, worshiping of Satan. That was just the to use your word, which was perfect, or your terminology, Anthony, the lens that they did this through, because to them it was cool, because they were Hot Topic kids that had nothing better to do, and it was just an excuse to abduct and rape and murder children. And that's just, like, I don't want to see that movie ever. So I don't know if I felt like resentment because I got snookered into it or whatever, that's not the movie's fault. That's my fault. But I do ultimately think is a very well, the performances are all fantastic. There was nobody in this movie that was bad. I mean, the Cyrus is, it's not the performances, it's parts of the script and some of the aesthetic choices that I still am not quite sure about. But that being said, so let's go full spoiler. So, what do we, Missy? What full spoiler me?
Okay. And I was really impressed with Micah Monroe's performance. Mm-hmm. That was I found her captivating every time she was on screen. I've really only ever seen her otherwise in It Follows. And I did see The Guest a long time ago with you, but I didn't even remember she was.
That's right.
And I'm not a big fan of It Follows. She was fine, but she didn't make an impression. In this movie, every time she's on the screen, she feels like she makes an impression.
Yeah.
She felt really real and raw, and it was really easy to ride the movie along with her and see it through her perspective. I thought she was fantastic. I also was a little bit disappointed because we saw a couple of tarot cards throughout the movie, and I had hoped we would get more of them. The only ones I noticed, I only saw two.
Judgment and the Fool.
Judgment and the Fool. And now, even like when I said I wanted more of the cult, like I wanted to know more about like what they were doing, their beliefs, why they were doing it. Well, not.
So, I'm sorry, just to interject real quick. I know that's what you guys wanted. I'm not saying you guys wanted to see them raping and killing children. I'm saying I don't think there was anything more to the cult in this story than, hey, Satan's cool. Let's like use that as our lens. While I don't think there was any trying to summon demons, any kind of belief system or I really just think it was just, this is cool. Let's write all this fucked up shit on the wall so it looks like a fucking dark prayer. Like, I really think it was all surface level, which is a letdown, because realistically, that's probably the way. It's just like what Anthony said. It's like, there was a certain refinement to satanic cults in the 70s and the 80s, if they even existed. And now it's just douchebag meth heads wearing, Seven Dust t-shirts that couldn't get a job and didn't feel like they had to. And so they were like, well, I like Satan. Let me put an inverted cross in my head. Fuck 5-year-olds who I steal from their parents and just, be a general jagoff. Anyway, sorry.
So you think that Cyrus, who was leading the cult, like you don't think they were actually doing any
in fact
occult thing?
Micah Monroe says at one point something to the effect of, all it is an excuse to be evil. I really just think that it's like they draw the pentagram, but it's not like they're actually like, let's get the lesser key of Solomon and try and, summon Belial. Even though, like, you get into that scene in the basement in the ranger station, and there's the fucking circle, right? The ritual circle with the toilet with the chair on top of it all.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God. And then the 2 flashes you get are of them like raping someone. So I really don't think this, like, that was the bitter disappointment of the movie for me, was like, it's a cult in the sense that now it's, it's like everything else. It's like, it's an Instagram cult. Look, I drew a pentagram in my own feces and raped a kid. I didn't actually like have any, there was nothing behind it other than that, right? Like, and it wouldn't have been okay if there was. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's just shallow bullshit, right? It's just a facade. And maybe I'm wrong. When you get through the book, you'll be able to tell me, no, they were like actually trying to, invoke, they're trying to do the Enochian calls, and they got to number 17 and shit went pear-shaped. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Now, I didn't see it that way before. Now I can see why you're calling it that way. And now I'm slightly disappointed.
I mean, the
hoping that the book.
I hope.
I think this was one of those cases then where my brain just kind of filled in the monster. Like, we see what we want to see.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Now, I wouldn't fault you for that. You had a better viewing experience because of it.
Because I was much more focused on, the satanic culty magic part than, like, I knew they were stealing children, but I thought that it was more regarding the magic, and that the child trafficking thing was like kind of secondary, whereas you guys seem to focus on that first. So maybe that was just the way I wrote the story.
I really think that was, and it was primarily because of her saying that. But yeah, I mean, there was nothing else. Anthony, am I insane?
I don't think so. That opening scene in the movie where Micah's walking away from the cult, and the first thing you see is this really brutal act of violence against her, from handed down or dealt by Cyrus, the quote unquote cult leader, and he palms her in the face. I thought she was dead.
Yeah,
I was like, oh God, he killed her right off the bat. I thought that was the end of her character right there. It's like, holy shit. She gets up, and he just proceeds to brutally beat her, kicks her in the face with combat boots. At some point, you see he's kicked out her 2 front teeth. It's a practical effect, and it looks fucking hideous. It's brutal. It's really fucking brutal. And then as I'm watching through the film, I'm like, Cyrus doesn't perform any acts of violence on anybody but women, and doesn't intimidate anybody until he has a pistol in his hand.
Yep.
Not once does he do anything to fucking, he's a big pussy.
Dude, Jamie Foxx
not,
is not even part of their fucking gang, right? And he stands up and is like, enough. You know,
you just took the words out of my mouth.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, no, it's exactly the point I was going to make. Even a one-armed Jamie Foxx was able to kind of like put him in his place. And, you know, it's this guy's, you know, pride is wounded by a young lady who is basically, you know, slighted him because she doesn't want to be with him anymore, or be, you know, involved in any of that shit, which she shouldn't be anyway, because, you know, I mean, it's probably, well, it is horrific what the kind of shit she had to go through in order to exist in this cult. And I'd mentioned it earlier in the conversation about how the other female, or the other woman in the cult, the goth girlfriend, and they don't touch on it too much in the film. We forget that in the beginning of the film, when she's kidnapped, she's there, she's present there, she's right behind her, and kind of like spooks her into walking back forward. She's then groomed by this girl, but, you know, into being her girlfriend. Because you know, it comes out later on that was her girlfriend in the cult, and this and that. And sorry, it's just like there's a lot of disturbing shit that happens like right off the bat in the film.
Yeah.
As far as other like spoiler stuff to talk about, you know, it seems like the plot device is I don't know. It turns out everything goes shithouse because of what? Infidelity. And that's why Cyrus is eventually called in, and him and his buddy, to go and make an example out of some people. And again, and this is what's odd, because this is the only scene where Cyrus does anything to a man, and it's already because he's bound, and this is the stepfather figure, so he goes to inject him with the incapacitate, and that's the only time you see him do anything, other than, like I said, hit women, or brandish a gun to you know, incite fear in those around him. So I mean, he's just a big bully. I don't like him. I don't like his face, especially with the two upside down crosses on it, which are just hysterical to look at. I'm not even kidding. It looks like Sharpie. There's it looks really bad. Like, let me touch you up real quick. So his character right off the bat is I mean, he's the big bad, but going into the movie, I never was like I never felt like he instilled fear in me, and I never felt him to be as too menacing, because the only people that he inflicted, you know, pain upon were women and children, because he's a biggity bitch, and he's weak, and like I said, much like these, like a Hot Topic kid that's, you know, slighted against society. I use the lens of this to outwardly peacock as this, you know, much more menacing character than I am. But of course, this is all drug fueled, also, which, you know, gives him free range to murder at will and what have you. I still kind of find it odd that, like, a large, or basically a militia at some point, is able to kind of run rampant through towns and nobody does anything about it. Because I mean, it's like, at one point during the final showdown, there's like, I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place.
No, that's fine.
But I like it's just so odd that nobody's like hot on these guys' tail, especially considering it's like at one point there's like 15 cars full of people, and everybody's got a machine gun, and it's just like, they do this on Saturdays. Like, why is nobody fucking like interjected at all? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't seem like something like this with such a big operation could operate so like so widely in the open. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if that made.
Yeah, no. There's a contrivance in that final scene where, they get the daughter and then he's like, holding her or whatever, and then because they have to drive away from the meeting spot, and then Case is like, we gotta go, they're coming, and all of a sudden I'm like, where the fuck did all these pickup trucks with guns mounted on the back come from? And
Dude,
not only that,
like a 50 cal.
not only that, but like then it's just for the visual grandeur of having that, right? Because like now, like you're invested and you're like, holy shit, how are they gonna get out of this? And then I feel like they made pretty short work. Like I'm like, they didn't just kill all the people that showed up in those trucks. We like that. It seems so. Not to say that it was a good fight scene. I love the way he comes out of the sand or whatever. That was cool, kind of Rambo. But it made no. It was just for the visual grandeur and it had no basis on what was actually going to happen, and it pissed me off. I was like, "Come on, really, Missy? You were going to say something? Sorry."
Well, I mean, again, I'm not real far in the book, but you do get more as far as their involvement with Arthur and John Lee,
which has to be better in the book.
Reasoning behind it.
It has to be better in the book because it sucks. It is the worst part of the movie where like I'm like, wait, what now? Like when that happens where he shows up and he's like, I just got off the phone with Cyrus. He said you hired him to and I'm like, what? And they give the flashback.
It didn't work in the movie.
Not at all.
The book pretty much starts out with some of the stuff that they have done. And they also it seemed like they also mistreated Cyrus as like maybe we're doing stuff to him when he was younger.
I could see that. I mean,
but they were looking the other way with what he was doing because he had dirt on them, and then John Lee had hired him to kill the stepfather who was fucking his wife.
Right.
But Cyrus also wanted to do it because he wants revenge on Arthur, who is the grandfather of the girl who gets taken.
Wait, that was another thing I didn't quite understand. I was like, whose father is Arthur? Because
Arthur is Bob Hightower's wife's father.
So I eventually, that was a conclusion I eventually came to. But then I don't know, it was just very vague. And I mean, so the whole thing with Arthur and
the ex-wife is his daughter.
That seemed like something like right away I'm like, this doesn't work, but I know it's from the novel, and I realize I think they worked it in probably the best they could. So I don't want to nitpick on it too hard because another director might have been like, we don't need that. And maybe it would have been a better movie. I don't know. But
the whole subplot with like property and shit like that. It's like, what the fuck is this? Like,
well, I mean, was that really just to show us like young hot topic Cyrus? Because that is totally like, that's such a good way of looking at him. And so there's a thing where, okay, you're younger, right? So I'm early mid 90s. I'm stoner, long hair, fucking Slayer, drugs, whatever. There is a point where you start to realize the problem with counterculture is that if you follow it far enough, the only thing that's there is madness, murder, terrible things, right? So I'm not saying get a suit, get a job, be a company man. I'm not saying that. But the thing is, like Grant Morrison once said in the early 2000s, the most punk rock thing you could do right now is put on a suit and get a job at McDonald's and work your way up into executive status and work from the inside out. right? So that's an oversimplification now, but I just feel like, yeah, like at a certain age, I was hanging out with people that were 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And I'm sitting in my minivan smoking a joint or doing acid with a guy that's 45 or 50 years old. And I'm like, this guy's fucked up. I don't want to be this guy. So, I mean, and so this is that nth degree where it's like the hot topic meth kid, fuck society, and really just like, I'm not going to get a fucking job. And like, eventually, like, what do you like? He just decides, no, I'm going to fucking tattoo inverted crosses on my face. I'm going to steal other people's loved ones and kill them and destroy their lives. And it's disgusting. And it's just stupid. It's like, if that's your MO, it is disgusting and you are a criminal and yes, you're a bad man. But I mean, it's stupid. It's okay. Like if you really feel that way, just blow your brains out. That's the ultimate fuck you, right? So just do us all a favor. Don't steal somebody's 5-year-old. Just fucking cut your own throat. There. That sends a message, right? Yeah, there was a story about a woman that cut her throat with a chainsaw like 10, 12 years ago. That sends a message. Like, she was a real deal. So anyway, sorry. That was my little soapbox.
Ill. Yeah, but again, like, it's seen through the lens of Satanism. So it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, these people are allowed to continue on and gradually grow worse due to hedonism.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
Don't ruin Satanism. That. Satanism should be a little bit more romantic.
I was going to say that nobody drank wine. Nobody drank wine. There was no chalice. There's no chalices. Stupid. Should have been a chalice. There should have been a chalice. Yeah. What's the so Hightower? His daughter gets stolen, and
right.
Later on, there's a really, it's a pretty, nothing shown, but you get what's about to go down and what's being alluded to. She's being trafficked at this point by one of the gentlemen in the cult. I don't even know if I am gendering them properly because they were wearing a wig, and I'll just refer to them as they. And you see her, she's got the wig on, she's putting on lipstick. Mind you, she's a young lady and is just basically being prepped to be pimped out for the evening, and it's utterly fucking revolting.
Is that the scene with the couple?
Yes.
I don't think that's his daughter. I think that's Micah Monroe.
It's not his daughter. It's Case.
Yeah, it's young Case.
Is it Case?
Yeah.
It is.
Yep. Totally disgusting scene. Wish it was not in the movie.
Break that down.
It's in the book because I read it.
Okay, so I thought that was the daughter getting ready. That was getting primed up to go out and do this. Because
no, it's a memory that Case has.
Oh God.
Of what happened to her.
Even well, it's all bad.
Yeah.
It would have been done to his daughter probably because it was done to her. Because we find out, I mean, as the movie goes on, you find out that, like, I don't know about any of the other cult members, but she was kidnapped, just like his daughter was. And that's her memory of what happened to her.
Yeah, there's that whole scene in the truck where they're kind of talking about their scruples and faith and whatnot. And, he's, basically giving her the people like you. And she's like, people like me. I was fucking kidnapped, you idiot. I got snatched. Yeah. I didn't come from that shit. I came from a great, home with, good family environment and all that shit too. I go, who the fuck are you to judge me? Based on, how I live and operate when I'm basically born of the same shit you are. You know? And I like her take on religion at that point, where she's basically telling like, dress it how you want it. It's all the same bullshit. It's
all the same. Yep.
I did love that scene, but it was funny how he kind of like pushed her into it. He's like, look, we got a lot of long drives. At least let's talk.
Yeah.
So he tries to make small talk with her, but can't get past his own like piousness.
Yeah.
Which is really funny. So that piety kind of becomes a hindrance in the relationship very early on, and is basically like, fuck you, just help me do this, and whatever. So he's very much interested in using her just like the cult did. You know what I mean? Taking advantage of the situation to get what he needs out of it, opposed to what is, good for her or healing for her or what have you. Granted, she has no intention of going and doing any quote unquote good. She's going to, dish out some fucking punishment and definitely, just desserts for the pricks that have fucking done what they've done to her.
Yep.
But the other question I had about it is just how, I guess, how linear it is. Well, not linear, but time frames. Because when we sit down and look at the actors and stuff like that, Cyrus looks very young, and so does Case. Well, obviously Case, she's early 20s. The other guy that was in a wig also looks very, very young. So it's one of these things where it's like, how old are these guys actually? Like that's the other qualm I had with the movie was like, there's so many of them that look her age, but were there and present when she was,
yeah, it doesn't
taken.
It doesn't wash.
It doesn't seem to add up right, and it looks kind of funny. That's one of the things that bothered me when I was watching. Like, okay, I get it. She's now been with the cult for about 10 years.
But they all look exactly the same, and she no longer looks like the little girl. And then on top of it, you get the scene where you get young face tattooless Cyrus with Arthur and JL, right? And he's clearly younger, but it's like, where does what are we talking about? There is a contrivance of convenience there going on as far, and whatever. I mean, this may be, looking way too much into it, but I feel like, I don't know, Missy.
No, I noticed that too. The thing that bugged me the most though was, all right, if she takes the detective under her wing and she takes him to the ferryman to get all these tattoos put on him.
Which, by the way, she refers to as armor, which I love because it made me think of you.
Yeah. But anybody who's ever had a tattoo or even seen a tattoo, like, you'll know fresh ink.
Yes.
They tattooed him all over his body, and then they go right into trying to get into the cult world, go down that rabbit hole. But I mean, there's no way anybody would look at him and not know that shit's fresh. All of it.
And she should know better.
Right. I mean, that was definitely just a plot device. Like, we need this to work, so it works.
And that made me a little suspicious because it's just like, I don't know. I remember like 10 years ago, there's some TV show, a few people have defended to me. I'm just like, fuck you. I remember when I was like, oh, okay. Tattoos are like, there's a TV show I think called Blind Spot where it's like all about this chick that's like covered in tattoos, and I don't know what the fuck but I was just like, oh, give me a break. This is like a board of directors. Like, we need a show about tattoos because that's what the kids are into, And it's like, so that whole thing where the thing that bothered me was she would know that's not. Yes. And then, like Anthony points out, he doesn't even ever show him ever. Like, he's in a flannel.
He wears a fucking and a thermal for like majority of the movie in the goddamn desert, no less.
I didn't even notice that.
Desert's cold at night, but
I'll give you that.
There were, so that really bugged me. The other thing, it was a cool scene, but just fucking ridiculous, right? He finds her getting fucked by like 3 random dudes, like in the middle of the street in Mexico City or wherever the fuck they are, I don't know, Juarez, whatever. It was really cool the way like he gets in and he starts getting his ass kicked. He's got the shotgun and he fucking blows the dude's head off like on accident over his shoulder. But he gets his fucking sternum cut open with a big ass hunting knife, Crocodile Dundee special, right? And then there's this scene in the bathroom of Texaco where he's like pouring fucking cheap liquor across this and then he's stapling himself shut with a staple gun.
Oh my god!
And I do want to say so Detective Hightower was played by I don't know this actor at all, Nikolai Coster-Waldau. Apparently he's from Game of Thrones and whatever else. Never saw Game of Thrones, never will. He did a great job. I thought he was as good as Micah Monroe, like all, very good performance. But again, it's the script, and like he sold that fucking scene, like the way like he did one, he screamed, he did another one, and then like by the end of it, he was just doing the staples across the sternum to get it over with. I thought that was really well acted. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was so like, you know what we need here? We need one of those fucking like Rambo scenes where he's got to like sew himself back together and again, like, dude. And the thing that really seals its ridiculousness is early on in the movie, JL, who's like his boss, the cop boss, the fucking whatever sheriff, whatever the fuck he is, tells him like, you're not going after your daughter because you're a desk cop. You got no experience in the field. You suck, basically. And then like 2 days later, he's stapling his sternum together in a fucking bathroom at a Texaco in Juarez. It's like, I mean,
wasn't it like 2 months? I think it was something like that, because when he came to him with information from Casey, he does say, look, it's been 2 months without.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so in those 2 months, he watched some YouTube videos about stapling himself together. No, that helps. That helps, and it helps with the time frame, because I agree with you on a larger scale, not just with the flashbacks and who was what age when and blah blah blah, but like I didn't really have a sense of how. I'm like, the tattoo thing, I kept going back to. I'm like, is there time passing here that we're unaware of? I don't know.
It's the only mention of it, really. And because the only other thing is just like, your daughter still might be alive at this point in time and juncture, but there's really not, I don't know, a lot of that stuff isn't really explained.
Yeah.
And in a 2.5 hour movie, that's a complaint. You should be a little more concise with stuff like that. I think that's something that should have been a lot more refined as far as how to show the passing of time, which is really easy to do. Look at 30 Days of Night. Look at the patchy beard that they put on Josh Hartnett's face after so many days. That's a joke. It's a really bad patchy beard.
I mean, it is also a little bit of because that is like a siege where you can.
No, I'm joking.
I know, but no, like that is a valid argument. But I thought about that too. But I don't. Aside from like putting a title on the screen that says like 2 months later or whatever, which I kind of feel like they didn't do because it would have been hard to explain who was doing what during that time and blah blah blah. So it just kind of becomes this like amorphous blob of time where it's convenient to be longer or shorter between events as they need it to be. But also, like, that's a small complaint. You know what? I mean, overall, in those terms, I feel like the movie works 100%, where like these are small gripes that I feel like we're bringing up based on other gripes, right? Not the stapling. I think that's a legitimate gripe. Again, a good scene, but not.
It was cringy though. I mean, none of the other violence made me like look away, but the stapling thing totally got under my skin.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
When the girlfriend dies, that's when I kind of like.
Was that when he shoots her like 17 times in the face?
Yes. Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like,
yeah,
that was one of those ones where I was just like, "All right," but continue. I'm sorry.
No, that was probably that was ridiculous. Like, it was one of the best kills. Although I again, like, and it just fits with the character as you've outlined it, and I hadn't really thought of, like, yeah, he's a big man when it's, he's beating up or whatever a woman. But it is such an over the top scene that it just feels a little bit ridiculous, but it's disturbing.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's and then there's that actually, you know what? Let's do this real quick. Favorite kills in the movie, because there are plenty. Missy, you want to start us off?
No, let Sean go first because I'm not sure what my favorite kill is yet.
I'm not 100%, but I have to say I've been thinking about this during the penultimate battle in the sand dunes or whatever the fuck that is. The guy that gets shot in the jaw. So he gets shot in the.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Hightower shoots him like once, twice, 3 times a lady in the face, and the guy's jaw is literally hanging off, and he's picking it up, like he's trying to put it back on, and someone succeeds and takes another couple bullets, and it's just like the weirdest. Like, it's CG, but it's done. It's low lighting, and it works. I don't know if it was my favorite, but it's the one that stands out to me because it was like both ridiculous and over the top, but also like cool. So
I forgot about the jawbone thing, but it was really cool when it happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite kill. Now I'm just going to keep thinking about the jawbone.
Well, you can come back to it later. Anthony, favorite kill?
Okay.
Mine's actually when Hightower goes to kill Errol. And at this point you can see, he's made the full transformation, and even tells him, like, you're crossing over.
Yep.
And you don't see it, it's not on screen, but he fucking kills him. It's just like, okay, so now he's made the full transition to badass now. And now you have the guts that you need for us to root for you.
Yeah. Well said.
That was kind of like, that was the scene and the kill for me. That was like, that's fucking awesome. Strong backup, the jawbone. It was fucking great.
I gotta say this. So Errol, fantastic character. Jonathan Tucker played him. And you know what I knew him from? He's one of these guys, and so I know him from Justified, and Justified has a track record. That show has a fucking track record of picking this certain type of a look and an actor that you're just like, oh, this guy, you just want him dead. And in Justified, he's Boone, the guy that has the fancy fucking 6 guns, that thinks he's such a badass cowboy, right? And it like comes down to the penultimate, like you're waiting like the whole, I don't know if it's the 5th or 6th season, you're waiting the whole season for him and Raylan to fucking have a draw, right? And he is just such a fucking little dildo, and he's an even bigger dildo in this movie. And that's so. Anthony, earlier we were talking, you mentioned how you were waiting for like a comedic moment, and it's just so, this movie's so, we got to be severe the whole time. We got to be severe. That's our mantra: severe. But he's Errol, Jonathan Tucker's Errol is the closest thing to a comedic relief, because repeatedly throughout this movie, somebody puts a fucking gun up to his face. He puts his hand, open palm, in front of his face, and he just is always like, ah! Like he has this complete like bitch scream, which if somebody put a revolver to my face, I'm not saying I don't know how I'd respond, but
fair enough.
It happens twice, I think, and then the third time, and both times he does not get shot in the face, and the third time is Hightower, aka Coyote, pointing it at him, and I'm like, he's the one that's going to do it, and he fucking shoots him, and I was like, thank you.
And it was great.
Yeah, it was great, because he just, God, you just wanted to see. I mean, all of them you want to see die, all of these.
Mm-hmm.
But he was even like the least nefarious of them as far as what we've seen, right? He was a little bit of a poser.
But he was playing all the sides.
Yeah.
He was just trying to use everybody. So, I mean, he's just as bad. He's
just as bad, but yeah, but it was very satisfying. So, yeah.
Actually, sorry.
No,
I think I think my favorite kill is probably when at the very end when Case kills Cyrus, when she you don't know where she's going and she tracks him down, and like when she sneaks up on him taking a piss, and then he tries to back her down and she doesn't at all. And then and then she shoots him and you see him go flying across the room and like bounce off the wall.
Yeah, it's like Crouching Tiger
from the shotgun blast. Yeah, but it was a little ridiculous, but it was awesome and I didn't care.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice to see him die.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not. Errol? Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say it. Never mind. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The actor that played Errol, has he done any genre work before? I swear I've seen him in something before, something notable.
Because I know him from other things.
He's in The Ruins. He's in something called Echoes. He's in Westworld. He's in Monsterland. He's in Snowfall.
So Ruins is the one that I recognize him from. Then.
Okay.
Hannibal. I saw that a long time ago too, but I wouldn't have remembered him from that.
Yeah, that is a nasty body horror film. Very fucking effective. I love that movie.
He's in. I never saw that. Pulse.
Oh, okay. I have seen Pulse. I like that one.
Oh, original, not original. The original remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003. The one with
he's the one that gets hit in the face with the beer bottle. Yeah.
Okay.
Hell, I like Skinner.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, I recognize him. Yeah, good kills, good fun. Papa John's. Ew, Papa John's was in a child's.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, gross.
Missy, so I specifically mentioned. So
yep.
I brought up Coyote because you had said you had a question.
Yes, because that was something that stuck out for me when she starts calling him Coyote throughout the movie. And I was wondering, I have a reason what I think it means. And I was wondering why do you guys think she starts calling him Coyote?
Anthony?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I kind of well, obviously the main one would be that he's, on the hunt for his daughter, much like Wile E. Coyote was constantly on the hunt for Roadrunner. I just I gravitated toward Doorstop when they started calling him Doorstop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if there's I'm sure there's some underlying mystic desert meaning behind it. It's kind of lost on me. But if that's what it is, and that's the simplicity behind it, that's the only reason why I would assume it. But yeah,
so my immediate assumption, although I feel like the way that they transition into her call is sloppy as fuck, because it just happens later in the movie, and like there's I don't know, but
she just starts doing it,
with
no explanation.
But like way late in the movie, there wasn't like a moment that came out of it, unless I missed it, which is possible. But a coyote is what they call somebody that traffics people across the border, right? Like a coyote, you hire a coyote to get you from Juarez into New Mexico, right? In the back of a truck or whatever, in a tunnel. So he is basically, going to bring these, to save his daughter, to bring these people out of this cult, to bring them to a new life or whatever. So I think that's how I took it. How did you take it?
Okay. I took it in relation to, well, two things. Animal totems, and I mean, it would make, if she was looking at it from like an animal totem perspective, then I mean, he would embody that. He's somebody who is on a quest, and um he's kind of playing the trickster side to kind of sneak his way in there. But I always think of Coyote as nature's fool, and who is always at the beginning of a quest or an adventure, and that is the tarot card that we get at the end,
which she pins to Cyrus before she calls and leaves an anonymous tip for him to go identify the body, right? So that could be like she uses the Fool card to say, Coyote, this is for you.
Right. You just worded it better, but that's kind of, I think she started calling him Coyote because she was seeing him as the Fool in relation to like tarot, or as like an animal totem that would protect him.
I agree that the use of the tarot cards goes nowhere in this movie. I mean, if what we just said is the reasoning, or even if it's not, that's how we interpreted it, it works. And clearly judgment like works, but I don't know, right. Like just another kind of bullet point on why the cult is just not really a cult. It's just, bullshit. It's
right, a paper cult.
Yeah, this is just somebody who bought new Doc
Not like us.
And yeah, exactly.
I gotta say that once I saw the tarot show up in there, I got so happy for you guys, and then really let down when I saw it didn't go anywhere. And I was like, oh, they're gonna love this. This is gonna be no, that's it.
Yeah, just right. It's like when you have certain signifiers, and the basement of the ranger station scene is awesome, but then it's just like, oh, but it's nothing happens here other than an excuse to be just an evil, fucking terrible person. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I liked it better when I thought that it was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you broke it. It's okay.
Well, and look, it's ambiguous enough where you don't have to, like, there's nothing that says that I'm correct, right? Nothing overt that says I'm correct. And you're reading the book, so I will be curious to know if at some point right. You're like, you're totally wrong, or like, what the book does. The book, by the way, we should say, is out of print. However, and I know you
can download it on Kindle right now for like $7.
There you go. Because I know, Anthony, you were saying you were looking for like a physical copy, and people got the shit marked up. It'll go back down in 2 months after the movie, but I don't think I'll read the book. I think I'm good.
It's marked up as high as $75.
Yeah.
And holy shit.
I got it for like under 10 on Mercari, and I'm glad I was able to get a first edition hardcover. So that doesn't show up till like middle of next week. I'm really, really looking forward to reading it, and I'm so jealous that you do Kindle. I don't do Kindle just because I'm a man of physical media. I have to have it in my hand physically to like.
I get it. If it's a book I love, I'll still buy the physical copy. But
yeah,
I like being able to have access to. I used to be a kid that dragged around a backpack full of books because I never knew what I wanted to read. Now I have a library in my pocket because it's in my phone.
Yeah. But I would like to read it now. But yeah, I'll wait till the middle of next week. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, so far I've just been getting a little more explanation on things that I had questions on. So
I'm
it
looking forward to that
definitely
because that's the
clarifies.
expansion I need.
It definitely clarifies what was going on between John Lee and Arthur and Cyrus, and why he hired him and that kind of stuff. Like, I did not get all that from the movie. It just kind of felt shoved in there. So I mean, I think it's going to explain the things we have questions about better.
Agreed. I'm looking forward to that. I would like to see all those things expanded upon and fully fleshed out, and not just jammed in the middle of like picturesque desert scenery. Like it didn't fit at all. And honestly, that subplot could have just not have been in the film. However, I get it. They want to try and stay true to the book. We have to add these elements to appease the author, and that's fine. I mean,
it's commendable these days, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, usually it's like, we're gonna cut that or whatever. So ultimately, like, fine, but I mean, it also just kind of further subverted, and I get the point was they were like, at some point they were undermining Cyrus, right? This is one of those movies now I've seen that they have like character posters for, and I think that's icky. Like, you should have a character poster for Cyrus, because in a way a character poster celebrates them, and it's just like when there were character posters for the second Strangers movie. I'm like, don't do that. These are people that break into other people's homes and murder them for no reason. Like, don't do character posters. So
didn't they do it for Devil's Rejects as well?
Yeah, I guess here I'm going to call bullshit on myself, because I guess I don't have a problem with it for that. And it's like, why, Sean? That's I don't know. I mean, it's like, I get when you have a character poster for like the Avengers, right? But like, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why I draw lines in some places and erase them in others. It doesn't make any sense. But hey,
I remember when Hostel came out and they had these great character posters of just like the different masked members of the Bloodhound. What are they called? The Bloodhound cult or whatever group.
Bloodhound Gang. They had that
Bloodhound Gang.
One Fierce Beer Coaster.
Sweet as the punch, baby. Sweet as the punch. But yeah, it's I had a bunch of those posters. I remember I collected a handful of them. I think there were more so when the second film came out, like just the different ornate masks that they wore while doing whatever awful nefarious act they were paying to do. But I get what you're saying as far as like glorifying things like that, but it's odd when it comes to Rob Zombie stuff, because you see so many people that are like obsessed with Doomhead and shit like that, and like I don't know what it is that people no, I know exactly what it is, and it goes back to that thing I said kind of about like haunted house culture, where there's just these people that gravitate toward these characters to almost live out a fantasy via this character. Sean and I were talking about it just prior to recording, and it's an odd thing, and I'll say it aloud. I think people that are involved in the haunted house culture are weird, and I think there's something I don't know. I'll shut up there.
No, I mean, not everybody, but yeah.
I know not everyone. That's a broad generalization, and I'm joking when I say that. But yeah, there is an element that likes to push too far just to see what pushing the envelope is like, and that was like that was in reference also to like the characters in this film, where like I said, I kind of made fun of them as being just the nerdy hot topic kids that were like, okay, well, let's see what happens when we push the envelope this far, and then further and then further and further. Yeah. So I just think that's like, I don't know, it's yucky. But Anyway, in my final thought, as far as this film goes, I think I can finally say I did enjoy it. It is definitely well acted. There are a handful of moments where it is overacted, and you can tell spot on when that happens. Um, Missy and I had gone back and forth by a text talking about Jamie Foxx's performance. I thought that was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I was glad that he was kind of reined in and played it straight, considering how like I think his physical appearance is what was what spoke for him as far as any kind of like outlandishness that he would normally portray in a lot of other characters in different films. Um, and then I think Micah Monroe did a fantastic job. I think that she, was the constant in the film that was able to portray like the reminder of an ominous presence that's ever looming and is actively hunting them. So that she's kind of like that reminder that shit's about to go south at any fucking moment. Be prepared, and that is true in the film. She does a solid job. Everybody, does a fairly decent job. Direction is, I mean, par for the course. I haven't seen a lot of Cassavetes films. I have been notebooked, but it's something that I try to push far, far, far out of my mind. And so I try to look at it through like the lens of an indie director, even though this is not an indie director.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to look at it through that scope that this is a new and upcoming indie director trying to break their way into this like cult cinema thing that is now popular. So if it's a matter of reinvention for him, like good on him for going out on a limb and trying something new. But then again, I don't know because I don't know his past work, whether or not that's something that he's touched on in the past. But overall, I think I dug the movie. There were some things that I'm left wanting for, but I think I'll be able to get that in the reading of the book. And hopefully, after the reading of the book, it will give me a finer appreciation for what I did see on film. I don't know what the budget is on this. It still seemed fairly indie for the most part, but and that's something that I wrestle with because this isn't coming from an indie place. Like it's very, very, very. There are very deep Hollywood pockets behind that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little odd, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I didn't hate the movie. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I did enjoy my viewing of it. It's not a perfect film. I do have my qualms with it. It's something that all of us have kind of fleshed out and worked out throughout this conversation. And will I say go watch it? This isn't the type of movie that I can just sit down and recommend to people. Much like the earlier in our conversation where I mentioned Serbia in the film. This isn't something you could just say, "Hey, watch this with your friends. Watch this with your family. If your girlfriend like action movies, you should watch this because you probably shouldn't."
Yeah.
This is one of those movies you might need to watch alone.
Yeah.
There's some very dark fucking subject matter in here. Again, you heard us talk about it throughout this evening's conversation. This is a movie I would say watch, not for the faint of heart. And I think at some point in the near future, it will gain stature in the cult cinema universe. And it much like when so and so did uh, what was it the Christmas Story. You still
Bob
also
Clark.
have Bob Clark also did Black Christmas. So it's one of those things that I have to keep in mind that everybody is entitled to duality, and we'll see what kind of notoriety this film gains in the future. But I do see it as being one of those like culty grindhouse type films that will, I think, eventually over time be looked at as a quote unquote good film. But In the interim, I would like to say that it is worth a watch, but again, not for the faint of heart. Definitely not for the faint of heart.
Definitely
And it's
not.
not a crowd pleaser. Not a crowd pleaser. Definitely watch it on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Missy, closing thoughts?
Yeah. Overall, I really liked it. It does have a few problems, but overall, I really enjoyed the movie. Um, it's a power it's a powerful story,
Yeah.
and what I like about it is that um, she does she goes through this whole tale of redemption, and like she gets a chance to take back all the power that he took from her. Like, yeah, maybe Bob's using her to get his kid back, but I mean, she has her own reasons for doing it, not only wanting to save the girl, but I mean, she was snatched. Everything was stolen for her. This is her chance to get it back, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought that was really cool that she doesn't end out a victim.
Right.
Like she's fucking fierce in this movie.
How about you, Sean? Closing thoughts?
No, just I definitely like what you just said, Missy, about like her being fierce, and that is looking at it more like, and as you had said, like how you kind of focus less on the other aspects and more on her really going after and trying to do something great as far as saving this other girl from going through what she went through. I feel like that's a better way to look at it. Yeah, I think it's worth watching, but I don't think it's for everybody. So if you've heard our reservations, and especially mine, I feel like if these are things that you have trouble with, maybe skip it. But if there's nothing in it that's unbelievably terrible, right? Like I've never seen a Serbian film, I never will, but everybody knows what makes that movie that movie. Nothing like that is in here, but it just doesn't back away from not showing you physically, but from really, or visually, but from really like going into some of the stuff that happened. That's it. That's my closing thought. But I have one closing question. Is Jamie Foxx's is that alopecia or white ink tattoos on his face?
I was actually going to ask you guys. I thought maybe he was scarred.
I believe it's called alopecia, where people have the pigment.
That's the hair thing that
Jada
okay. Pinkett has. What are you thinking of? I can't remember that. I know the term. Maybe I do know the term. I just can't think of it offhand. But I know what you're talking about. Good Lord. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it offhand. But it's. Do you know what it is?
I don't. I thought maybe he was I thought they were burn scars or something.
Here we go. I don't know that I can say it. Vitiligo. Okay, so is it vitiligo, or is it? I mean, and I didn't think of it till like way. I mean, he's not in it that much, and I did really like his character and his performance. And that's when it occurred to me that it's probably what it was. But also, I know a few people with. Well, I know one person with a tattoo in white ink, where like on their back, it's like something. So I was like, oh, is that because there are so many of their tattoos are just like solid black, like coloration. So I was like, is that like the opposite? But I think it's probably what is it? Vitiligo?
Vitiligo.
But either way, I don't know. That was it. So,
I can't wait for the sequel when we get to see the blossoming love story between the two.
Nah, that won't happen.
It'll be called The Notebook 2.
Nice. It's a prequel.
No. Nobody should ever be notebooked.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Been there.
Oh man.
God bless you. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
I mean, I've seen pieces in my mom's presence, but never the whole thing.
Well, that's God as a bullet. And kudos to everybody involved. And yeah, like, I mean, definitely worth supporting. I'm glad it got a theatrical run. I'm glad I saw it in the theater. So that's it. So I don't know. We'll be back again soon with another episode. But until then, for the Horror Vision Horror Podcast, I am Sean.
I'm Missy.
I am Anthony the Arachnid.
And
a pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20 soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive:
the world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure: murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus. Available where books are sold.